Okay, welcome back to another episode of SaaSy Mom, where we talk about SaaS, technology, product management, product marketing management, and our another full-time job, motherhood. And last week, Wendy and myself, we chatted about product management. So today we are going to chat about product marketing. And Wendy, I think you will be running a show today, as this is definitely something that you know, and I have no idea what it is. So maybe you can start?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's a true statement. I think you actually understand product marketing than many other product managers that I interact with. But before we actually go into product marketing, I think let's put it into context of like SaaS marketing. My husband actually still thinks I do advertising, as that's what a lot of people that understood marketing as. It's kind of the face of marketing, right? Like Super Bowl commercials, like radio ads, like things that you see on Facebook and Instagram feeds. But actually, marketing is so much more than that. Let me give you an overview. And actually, before I get started, I actually have a cold, so bear with me as you might hear a lot of like coughing and sneezing and all that. But we're very committed to recording, so we're like, once we set a time, we're doing it. So bear with me as we're doing this. Let me just give you an overview. So there are many disciplines within marketing. So I'm going to walk you through, some of these, and you might have heard, some or the other, but I'll walk through a few. So demand gen, that's where that marketing is involved with bringing in like new leads and keeping our sales team happy and their funnels kind of like full of leads. Think of them as kind of the front line. And then you get like the customer marketing. A lot of time customer marketing put in work once we have acquired a customer, and their focus is really on retention, upsell, and creating that like customer super fans, case studies, testimonials, and things like that. And then we have content marketing. These are people that, if you ever read a blog, an ebook, a case study, or other written content, they are the ones that create those and draft those. They are your grammar police, your wordsmiths, and they understand words a lot better than a lot of the marketers in other disciplines. And then there's also digital marketing. That's actually what my husband thinks I do. All those like clever ads that he sees on Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, they are the ones that actually, bid on ads, optimize it, make it impossible for people to ignore it. That's really their job. And then you get like, PR and corporate communications. That's the department that we want to make sure, our company looks good in the media spotlight. They would pitch like newsworthy stories, and they are the first to jump in if there's a crisis we need to manage. And then you also get like the event marketing. If you have ever attended a conference or grabbed, a swag on a booth table, they are the ones that are behind the scene. They are responsible for, planning and executing events, and they are the one that orchestrate everything for the event. So that's kind of like, the overview. And of course, there's product marketing. And it's really right there in the name. We're kind of a crossover between product and marketing. Think of us as like kind of the bridge or like a translator between the product team and kind of everyone else on the marketing team. Like we are the one that takes all the amazing features and product that the product team has built and make it kind of understandable, relatable, and obviously sellable in that sense.
Interesting. So honestly, I'm learning right now as you speak here, because I think at my job, I mainly interact with you, and I never talk to any other departments. I'm not even sure what departments we have within our corporation, like marketing department.
Yeah. It's actually really common because in most cases, like product managers will primarily work with product marketers. And then we take, what you guys are providing us in terms of like, what features we're launching, what are the competitors we're approaching, and then we then collaborate with the rest of the marketing team to plan and execute on, different campaigns that, you might be involved in, like webinars and feature launches and product rollouts. But yeah, like at the core, if I need to kind of summarize what product marketing does, it's about like, kind of promoting all the amazing work that you and your team does and your development team does, and translating it into something that the market actually understands and values. We love to say that we're kind of the crafter of a story. What does it actually do? Why does it matter? Why should people care? Once we have those kind of core components, then we can work across the marketing spectrum that I just mentioned to you to make sure that the story actually translates in the number of mediums that you might see. It could be in the format of an ad, it could be a format of a blog, event, webinar, and so forth.
I think that you guys have a tough job here because now understanding this marketing landscape and structure a little bit better, I feel like you guys get the most sort of rage in case timelines are shifted. So even though your department is not responsible directly for, like, for example, I don't know, like launching an ad or launching a blog or whatever, but at the end of the day, you guys are the ones who take the biggest, I don't know, yeah, you're the ones where, like, I know my boss always comes to you and says, why this was not done on time? And you're like, oh, it's because content marketing department was not able to launch it on time. But at the end of the day, we all are, you know, giving
Yeah,
our
yeah. And a lot of
complaints
times
to
it's like,
you.
exactly. A lot of times the product marketers are held against like a timeline. Obviously, if features launch on a certain date, we expect the marketing to go out on that same date. But I can tell you, like a lot of time, timeline can shift based on multitude of things, right?
Mhm.
Do we get enough information from the product management team? Do we actually understand what the feature does? Do we have all those in order to craft those messaging? If any of those are delayed, or if any of those other marketing department has other projects and we can't insert or we didn't give them enough timeline to work with it, it is going to eventually delay, right? So I think it's just making sure that we're communicating across all parties, especially for like critical launches. Um,
Mhm.
if we slip, like that's a big fault of product marketing because we didn't meet those deadlines and there is a goal that we need to meet. And then that's when it gets tough because we're relying on so many different parts. And that's where it's like you're trying to multitask between multiple people and you're trying to build rapport and make sure like, they're working on your stuff when it's critical.
Yeah, and especially it's like in our organization because we have so many products and we kind of compete also for this space, right?
Correct.
But
And
okay,
that's why I
so
always tell
yeah.
you, Anya, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if it's like if I don't get this, I think that's another thing where it's so nice working with, you and your team. It's like you understand why is it so critical to get these things to us in a timely manner for us to coordinate with so many different groups, right? When that get delayed, it's like, yeah, we miss deadlines and things, and that's not a good look because our boss will come to me or you, be like, what the
Yeah.
heck? What the heck happened?
Well, so maybe then in startups it's a little bit easier. But with startups, I see there is kind of another problem, right? Because I've
hmm
worked in a few and there were maybe one or two marketers. So where does like product marketing fit in there?
Yeah, startup is a whole different board game. I think titles, like you might have worked with like coordinator, managers, or director, but the chances are they are probably doing a little bit, or actually probably all of it,
Hmm.
that I mentioned, like all those marketing disciplines. And honestly, when I first started, I didn't even realize there were so many disciplines within marketing itself because I was just kind of doing everything. Like if usually there's only one marketing person within a small, startup, right? So you're planning events, you're talking to analysts, you're talking to journalists to, promote your company. You're working with the CEO on messaging and positioning, and then you're generating leads, running ads, and then things like that. You might be working with like, a third party consultant for certain things like, design and content, etc. But you're kind of like running everything, which is why I think as a product marketer, it's nice to work in a startup because you kind of understand the multiple disciplines and like what is needed in each role. So you kind of like understand what their job looks like, what their goals are, so you can better collaborate with them. So I'm a strong a strong advocate for actually someone to work at a startup because you kind of understand everything about marketing.
And I definitely see you touching everything. And, probably that's why it's so great to work with you.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I gravitated towards product marketing kind of
Hmm.
early on in my career. I've seen, product marketers when I was a junior marketing coordinator that, their fingerprints was in a lot of different areas in the business. And that's kind of where it got me interested. It's like, hey, what is this product marketing thing? I need to learn more about it. Like I want to be involved. And that's really how I started, to be honest. But just kind of going back to it, Like we do touch a lot of different things, but at the base of it, we are responsible for positioning and messaging. And what I mean by that is we need the positioning and messaging in order to be able to communicate all that out to the rest of the organization. Let me just give you one example. Like for Dimension, like their goal is to acquire net new prospects. But our role as a product marketer is to be able to communicate to them our unique positioning within the target audience we're trying to go after, right? For example, in that aspect is like, okay, like our core product is in this category. These are our unique features. This is our unique positioning. Here's like, how we can go to market. We need to be able to communicate that to them. But as well, because we're trying to target net new prospects, there's a lot of times that we would like leverage like trends that are like really hot in the moment to make our category or make our unique positioning more relevant to them. For example, like AI, how does our solutions like unique positioning fit into this trend? This is what we need to communicate to them so then they can find, a vendor that might be related to, AI, an analyst that have experience around AI or whatever theme that we choose to, then they can find the kind of the right vendor for us to kind of communicate that message to that audience. So that's what we kind of usually do. Yeah, and it kind of goes on. Just give you another example, like for example, like customer marketing. That's totally different than a demand gen because you're communicating to your existing customers. So our goal here is to engage with them, the customers, and we enforce that they actually made the right decision with our solution as they're continuously using it. As well, how can we show them additional use cases to help create upsell? Or, as they scale their team, how do we ensure that, we're part of that scaling? And then if you have like additional solutions in your portfolio, cross-selling adjacent solution is also a key here. But as you can see, cross-selling positioning is very different than a prospecting positioning because you're trying to help them understand how this cross-sell solution could build on their existing set of solutions that they have with us already, and how can it actually further enhance their existing investment. So that's like a different lens to take when we're talking about like positioning and messaging and all that. And that's really how PMMs work with the various number of departments. We kind of like tailor our positioning and messaging to those marketing disciplines. And then we help them meet their goals because obviously each discipline has different goals.
Yeah. So makes
Yeah.
sense. I know like kind of you work a lot with us, right? So, you usually like kind of I think maybe you can talk a little bit how you work with us because
Yeah.
we like always have these meetings and then you're asking us like five whys why this solution, and then it goes to like as I understand, once you understand this value proposition, it then goes to this other department like content marketing, digital marketing,
Mm-hmm.
corporate communication to like prepare materials and to
Yeah,
launch
yeah.
campaigns, right?
Yeah, for sure. So as you know, we work very closely together
Mm-hmm.
in terms of just like understanding the value prop of the features we're launching. So typical questions that I'm often curious about is like, what's changing to their current workflow? Like, why does it matter to them? Why should they care? You would hear me in meetings, as you're aware, asking a lot of whys and why this and why that. It's eye-opening a lot of times, like because sometimes it's like nice for the even your team to
It
communicate
is
to us like
eye-opening
what that
for
is.
us too. Sometimes like, okay, we build it, we know the customers need it, and this will do XYZ, or like this will help us to achieve a goal. But then sometimes like this why, unfortunately, I don't know, maybe it's unfortunately comes like after we have like a real deep dive of a feature, and it usually happens when feature is already in development. I don't know if this is a good process or not, but we realize like, oh, how much value it is only after
Yeah.
we have a meeting with you.
Yeah, well, and I think one example I can think of just, not recently, but a few months ago, I think we launched a feature and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is very unique to this solution, right? We're like, great. Like I actually thought that was great. But I think I asked a question, it's like, oh, so how can we cross-sell this product to our existing audience? There's actually not a natural way to do it if that information is not synced back to the original solution. And I think that was where we're like, oh yeah, like we discuss this and then like, yeah, we're going to add it to the roadmap. But this is something that is like, I think from a product marketing lens is like, how do we market it? Yes, it's useful, but I'm not sure how do we cross-sell it. And that product is primarily for cross-sell. I think that's where having these discussions is really great. And then like really it's just understanding the why, the how. I think just understanding like how would their workflow change? Because a lot of times like it could be a small feature update, but their workflow completely changes, then we will need to communicate that to the customers too, right? But for like bigger launches and anything like that, we really have to really understand the how and the why and like what's changing and all that, because we need to be able to communicate it to people that might not understand the product as well as potentially us, right? So with content marketing, they're really great at like crafting like blogs and infographics and things like that. But not understanding the core messaging and positioning, they may not choose the right collateral. Like they may be creating a blog, but maybe an infographic could be more appropriate, for example. And then with digital marketing, they're all about like testing different messaging. So if we can tell them specifically, okay, this is our position, let's test these like ABC messaging based on these positioning, they're never going to be able to like bid on the highest like ad. They're not going to be understanding like how do we drive more traffic to our website, to our ads, to social. They're not going to be able to do that. And then with corporate communication, this is like super critical. Whenever we do a major launch, for them to work with like analysts and journalists, they care about like a unique angle that they can go to market with. And it's like something that a news outlet could pick up the news. If there's not like a unique angle, it's just going to be like a press release. No one's going to pick it up, and that like kind of defeats the whole purpose. So we need to be able to communicate to them and help them find that angle so we can actually be newsworthy. And then of course, like solution specialists and sales engineers, we work with them on a daily basis. They're the ones that do demo. But demo is not just a place to demo every single feature, right? Like we know this. We need to be able to create that story that resonates. Maybe is around a particular use case or against a competitor. Like there's different scenarios where a demo really needs to be a story. So that's really where we play a role in terms of like where product marketing fits.
And actually, I think this is what differentiates SaaS, right, from just like a B2C solution, because with SaaS, you actually can have this demo and you can tell the story and you can engage with the customer. And while B2C, you just would likely work with just like digital content, and I guess the user doesn't really come to you and potentially their purchase happens online without this demo. And yeah, demo is where we usually do our best to talk to tell a story.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, like I know you mostly as a storyteller, but as we are talking right now, I learned more. It sounds to me like you're kind of an air traffic control, or sometimes maybe like babysitting, depending on who we are talking about here.
So true. Because a lot of times I do have to chase a number of group of, for things, right? Product management, executive team, and many, many others. And as Collie, like part of my job, I need to be able to wangle like everyone to stay on message. Sales, customer success, marketing. That's why it makes our job like so dynamic. My day-to-day is just very, very, very different.
So can you tell me like one question though? So I see that your job also depends a lot on other people, and like as you mentioned, chasing. Is it hard to just be like, is it hard to provide results while having so many dependencies on on other teams? So how do you do? Because you do well, but how do you kind of ensure your results and you like deliver what you really committed to because you have your goals?
Yeah. I think it's like providing, like especially for product management, I think just getting the buy-in from management, right? Like we are both gold on the same thing. Like when you launch a feature, it's not just about like launching that feature. You want to see adoption. You want to see cross-sell. You want to see upsell. I think that alignment is very aligned with product marketing, right? So your team and you are both invested in ensuring that you are providing me timely things. And then when, I raise it to you, like maybe a particular team member is like struggling with finding me, you're on top of it. Like you would go to your team and it's like, hey, you need to get this done, or else there's no point of launching a feature. Like just having that alignment, I think really, really helps. I think we're aligned on that goal. And that's why it's like there's less and less chasing. And then the other aspect is like we know what we need to get done in terms of launches. So just having like a template, like, hey, this is everything that we need from the PMs. And then just having that. And then we used our weekly meeting to just discuss like, hey, do we name the feature correctly? Do we really understand the value prop? And then challenge each other? I think that's also important because we can't be complacent. It's like, hey, whatever we said we were doing before, it's fine. And just being able to challenge each other helps us kind of stay on track. I think that helps. And then on the opposite side, like on the marketing side, I would have to communicate usually to the product management team. It's like, hey, a blog takes like 2 weeks. Digital ads, whatever we're doing, like takes X number of time. In-app takes X number of weeks. So if you can't get me these things, we're gonna miss out on a communication opportunity. And that's gonna decrease your adoption. They're gonna decrease whatever your goal is. And just having that understanding usually can, alleviate a lot of that challenges with timeline. I think that's really what helps.
Yeah, so alignment is key here. Okay, so maybe let's also understand how your day-to-day looks like
Yeah.
and how do you prioritize your day-to-day operations?
Yeah, that's a tough question because it really, really depends on what's on deck. As you know, like we have, major events on a certain timeline. So, when we're working towards a major event, like that's our priority. When we're working on a major product launch, like that's our priority. So it really depends. But I think generally it falls into like four main buckets, as I would say. Obviously, we talked a lot about this already, like the positioning and messaging, crafting that product story, what it does, why it matters, and why people should care. And then this is not a one and done. This includes like constantly just evaluating where we are in the market, whether it's a new feature that sets us apart or maybe a competitor's move that impacts our standing. We're constantly evaluating. We're taking feedback from from the campaigns that we do. Are we driving additional adoption? And then the second aspect is we talked about already, it's the product feature launches, working with you guys on planning, coordinating, announcing things. And also it's like, it's not just announcing like new features, right? But also understanding where our roadmap is heading. So this really helps us like build that bigger story because we understand what that roadmap looks like, right? And then the third aspect is like sales enablement. This is all about like conversion rates. So allowing our sales with, equipping them with all the tools that they need, whether it's battle cards, pitch decks, FAQs. We look here very closely on like conversion rates, close lost, close won. And then we look at all these things to kind of see like where do sales need help in? And then we kind of prioritize based on that. And then campaigns, like that's kind of majority of the time that we're working with marketing on is we collaborate with a number of marketing team to create campaigns for both like prospects and customers. For just to give you an example, if we're doing an AI focused campaign, we'll start up the top of the funnel. Top of the funnel meaning like people that doesn't know our product as well, but they need some sort of like magnet to attract them. So it's like maybe a webinar around like debunking AI myths or like a ebook around that. So it's like, a top of the funnel kind of topic that's not really solution specific. And then as we move further down the funnel, then we shift the content really tailored to our solution and kind of our unique value proposition, such as maybe like our way of approaching AI. What are some of the benefits to that? Maybe a case study showing how like a real world results with our AI solution could be, or maybe a product demo video that illustrates a key feature. Those are just some examples of where we have to figure out like, okay, what does that whole funnel look like when we do a campaign, and we work with marketing on that.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's a very great deep dive, I guess gave us about product marketing. And I hope our audience learned a lot because I work with you and I learned a lot today. I just never, I think it never occurred to me how dynamic your role is, like this positioning, campaigns, launches, sales enablement, and like aligning everyone. It's going to be crazy and juggling 100 of things at once. It's
Yeah.
pretty hard.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why like product marketers love usually it takes a certain personality. They need to see things from
Mm.
end to end. They like multitasking. They like, deadlines that might be shifted and things like that. But yeah, like anyways, that's product marketing in a nutshell. Usually when you interact with a product marketer, they love crafting stories. They like working with multiple teams and having that like kind of like technical and marketing knowledge. They kind of like lean towards that. But I know for a lot of people that is listening and are thinking of even getting into product marketing, you might wonder like kind of what paths can I take to get there? I actually struggle a lot myself in the beginning of my career path. So I would love to in future episodes kind of discuss that as well.
Yeah, we should discuss that and also like what personality kind of fits the product
Yeah.
marketer in general. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think this will be in upcoming episodes and I hope everyone subscribes to our podcast and can't wait to learn more about how to get into product marketing.
Yeah. Well, same here. I'm really looking forward to it because I love to just share and kind of like guide other people that might want to get into product marketing. But Anya, I want to switch gear a little bit because I've been dying to ask because you said you had a 36, was it 36, right? 36
36,
hour,
yes.
yeah, no epidural birth.
Hmm. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How?
I mean, it's more to this. It's not just 36-hour no epidural birth. I wish it would be just to be honest, it's a story about how a perfectly like healthy pregnancy. It's a pretty healthy labor itself. Because I was at a time when I got to the hospital, I was monitored at every stage of like monitored every 15
Mm.
minutes by a midwife. And it was pretty well progressing labor. How it turned into a seizure from my side, where I was not breathing for 45 seconds and my baby that was already at the end and we saw the hair and like they were asking my partner, do you want to just receive a baby already, ended up being delivered with a vacuum. So it's definitely quite traumatic experience. I really think that the midwives that we were working with didn't do a great job like consulting me and consulting my partner around like what to do when you have such a prolonged labor.
Yeah.
But I hope my story will just kind of, I don't know, help other pregnant people like maybe be more flexible during the labor, I think.
So what,
Yeah.
yeah, so what exactly happened that caused your seizure? Was it like because of the prolonged pregnancy and you were tired and all that and you were in pain for so long? Like what happened? What caused it?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, once they started doing all of the tests, everything was like after the seizure, like they did a CT scan of my brain, everything is great. They did an enormous amount of tests, everything also looks great, so I didn't have any preeclampsia or anything like that. Simple. It was super simple. The thing that caused this type, like the seizure, was simple. It was just a lack of electrolytes because I had a
Oh,
prolonged labor. So first of all, I threw up 3 times,
during the
and
labor that you had?
during labor, yes, so during
Oh,
early
wow.
labor. So what happened also was that my early labor was like 29 hours, and then the rest of the 7 hours was already like active labor, right? Active labor with
Okay. So,
pushing.
yeah, so when you say like 29 hours, it's like you're not in huge pain or you were?
I was in huge pain. So I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
how they call it early labor. This is also a mystery to me. I was in huge pain. I was staying on my bed for like 10 hours and I wasn't moving because I was afraid because every move would cause even more pain. So I don't know, like also the system in Canada also is really questionable because I was in very bad pain. Like I would say once I got admitted to the hospital and I had active labor, it still was pretty painful, but I feel like early
Yeah,
labor was like the worst. So during early labor, I
crazy.
was like, again, all doctors say it's normal, it's normal. But what happened to me was I was drinking a lot of water because I
Yeah,
couldn't eat.
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't eat.
Yes.
I threw up 3 times and it was like pretty bad throwing. Like when I threw up, it wasn't just like a little bit of water or a little bit of
Yeah,
food
yeah.
here. I felt like I could have delivered my baby through my throat. This is how
Oh.
bad of throwing up I experienced. Then I had a diarrhea, and so
Oh my
a lot of
God.
water, diarrhea, and throwing up. Apparently, just like and no food.
Yeah.
I removed all of this like sodium and electrolytes
Yeah,
from my
yeah.
body. And for some reason, like our midwives didn't advise to get the like to drink water with electrolytes. So, and at the same time, epidural was offered for me, right? But I didn't
Yeah.
want to get an epidural. I wanted to do a natural birth. Plus, they explained to me that likely like active labor will be fast. So I was like, I don't want an epidural. But again, our like midwives and professionals, like they never explained to me that, hey, during such a long labor, get an epidural. I talked to a doctor from Europe, and this doctor then said to me, like, yeah, people without epidural, they can give birth those who like have like very short active labor and people who like are dilating pretty like
Yes,
fast
pretty
and
quickly. Yeah.
without pain. So then you can do natural birth. If you're like 36 hours, you have to get an epidural because another thing that happened was like, I mean, this doctor told me that it's not only electrolytes, it's also like a pain shock.
That makes
So
sense.
yeah, like pain
Yeah, like
shock.
your body is in shock, right?
Yeah.
So and it wants to like
And
shut down.
yeah, and obviously it was a seizure. I ended up at ICU. It was pretty like stressful for my
Yeah.
partner as well as my mom who was with
Yeah.
me and for my like in-laws. But everything was ended up great. Like my
Yeah.
baby was healthy. He was delivered through vacuum. So was another actually moment that I think contributed to my seizure is that I was against vacuum. And we can
Hmm.
talk about this, like why in Canada they still use vacuum, even though in many countries the vacuum is prohibited as a
Oh, really?
delivery
I didn't know
method.
that.
Yeah. So, because no one talked to us, and at a certain moment, just the obstetrician came into the room and said, "We need to urgently deliver your baby through vacuum or through forceps." And the last thing that I remember, I looked at my partner and I said, please, like, I can't do vacuum. And because I heard a lot of horror stories there, and I just like got like unconscious. So I don't remember anything.
Oh my God. So it's so crazy. It's so,
Yeah,
so, so crazy. Yeah, like yeah, I can't imagine. Like, so when you told me it was like 36 hours, I'm like, what happened? And I didn't even know you were like in active labor for 29 hours. Like, how did you even do it?
too early. Yeah.
Like that's pure like will. Like that's yeah.
It was a will, but I think that the reason why I talked about this story is because I want to kind of give some empathy towards women. I think obviously again there is like also a big movement, right? Like, oh, let's do natural birth. But please do listen to your body, and if you feel like you are not making it, just give up and do an epidural. You just like deviate from a plan and know that if you are in pain for a very, very long time, you just don't have to kind of struggle and be in pain. Just love yourself and
Yes, yes.
observe how your body reacts. And if you feel that your body is at the edge, don't push it because
Yes.
it can end up in such like negative consequences.
Yeah, I think as women or probably as moms, like we're so stubborn in some ways because like we don't know. Like, and then we could talk
Hmm.
about more even like even breastfeeding. And I was the same as you. I was like I wanted a no epidural birth, but mine I think it was a quicker labor, so it worked
Hmm.
out. But obviously it's a really really tough one. I think you can have a plan, but don't be 100% stick to it. I think you need that flexibility, which is really hard when you're in pain too. So
Yeah, and this is where I think like our midwives didn't work well because they never consulted from professional point of view what would happen or what can happen, what are the consequences of this. They also tried to stick to the plan because we
Mm-hmm.
were so like firm.
Adamant about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't work well as I think medical professionals.
Yeah. And like consultant when you don't know everything and the cause and the effect and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I really think it's motherhood, especially for like first time moms. We have a plan, um, like our ideal plan, but I think it's because we're also like, stubborn a little bit, that we always like we need to stick to this plan. So I think just being open about it and hearing other stories, like not we don't need to stick to the plan, and just have those options be presented. I think that's just a good way to kind of approach it. Because things can unexpectedly happen and kind of leverage like medical advices just to be safe.
Yeah, and honestly, just like drink electrolytes during your labor because, like, don't plan that you're going to eat. Even during classes,
Yes.
they say, oh, you will eat. And, like, I had ice cream. I love ice cream. I had ice cream in my fridge because I was thinking, oh, during like labor, I will eat ice cream. I ended up not having ice cream. And because I couldn't, and just drink electrolytes, like literally can save your life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Actually, you brought up a good point. When I was pregnant, actually the nurse gave me ice chips. And then so
ice
it's like I
chips.
can,
Oh,
yeah,
what
so
is
I
that?
can like, so ice chips, so it's just like sucking on ice. So you're not like gobbling
Uh,
water, but at least you're keeping yourself like moist and everything because you shouldn't be drinking too much water because as you're doing
mm-hmm,
labor, like you don't want to constantly go to washing when you're in pain.
mm-hmm.
So actually the nurse gave me ice chips, so like ice cubes, and you just suck on it, and actually that was really refreshing and helped me. But anyways, Anya, I really appreciate, sharing, your story because I know it's hard kind of reliving it again. Because obviously it was traumatic for you, your partner and as well as your baby. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I mean, the more time I talk about it, the better I feel. So it's honestly good to talk about it one more time. But I think that, that's all for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
As we mentioned, we have a lot of exciting things coming in our next episode. So please connect with us on Instagram, connect with us on Spotify, and, remember that if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate us, leave a review, and also comment. What are the topics that you want to discuss with us in the
Mm-hmm.
next episodes? And we will totally do address those and ensure that, you love our content.
Yeah. Well, should we try this? Can we say this in unison? Three, two, one. Bye for now.
Okay. Yeah, let's try one more time. Let's try one more time.
All right. Three, two, one. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
That did not work. Okay, we'll try again next week. Okay, see you guys.
Bye bye.